we had two big changes that I think are going to be noticeable for fans and for athletes. The first being the elimination of the B final. And there's two different roads that you can go down with this. One is kind of the emotional or the feelings of the athletes who are no longer going to have those night swims, because we are only getting championship finals this year. Every night swim that we get is going to be for a national championship. And this has been a podcast that has been very on the side of the athlete, especially with myself being a former athlete. But I am actually going to take the stance in support of the NCAA's decision on this. I think that this was the right move, and I think that it was a long time coming. And I think if you had asked me a year ago what I felt, I wouldn't have said that. But I got a new perspective watching NCAA's last year. And what I can say is there was definitely this wave of how the emotion of the meet ran. And what I mean by that is these swims, I mean, these are the swims for the year. These are the moments that these guys have had circled for months and that they've been training for. And you can feel that through the TV screen when you watch this meet. You can feel that sense of pressure, that sense of excitement. You can feel it from their teammates going crazy. You can feel it in the stands. And when you watch these A finals, they're electric. A lot of those races were very close. A lot of them went different ways than we expected, and it was really, really fun to watch. But the problem is you would get these gaps, these long gaps, where if I wasn't a swim fan, if I wasn't a former athlete myself, I'm flipping the channel. I'm going on to the next thing. I'm finding whatever else is on. Part of that problem was the B finals. And another part of it was the trophy ceremonies that would take so long. So getting rid of these B finals, I think, is going to substantially shorten the night sessions, which I think is good for the athlete as well. I think it gets them back to the hotel quicker, get to bed, get ready for the next morning's prelim sessions. I also think it's going to help the fan and the spectator who's watching on TV if you flip through it, because that's the goal for swimming. You want to be a college sport that, you know, you're not going to be getting college football playoff numbers at NCAA's. That's just unrealistic. But if you can make your product viewable enough for someone channel surfing on a random Thursday night and they come across women's NCAA's and maybe you're 20 minutes in and they watch this great race and they're like, man, there's only 40 minutes left of this. Like, I'll keep watching. That is the kind of thing that you can create. But I think that getting rid of B finals was a necessary evil for that. And I think it is sad, especially for people whose whole goal was to make those B finals and get that experience of swimming at night. But I also think it makes it more exclusive to be able to swim at night, which makes it an even bigger deal and even more of an honor, and the energy level will be even better. So the people that still get to swim at night are going to have a better experience. Then there's the other branch of it of how will this actually affect the standings of the meet. So what we did, I reached out to my numbers guy. He put a spreadsheet together for me, and we looked at 2025's results. And then we put in the new rules with the B finals, and we compared and we looked at the changes. And it went about how I expected. You have not a lot of change in the top 10. Last year's top 10, UVA, Stanford, Texas, Indiana, Tennessee, UF, Louisville, Cal, Michigan, NC State is your top 10. With the new changes and the B final, we have UVA, Stanford, Texas, IU, Tennessee, Florida, Cal, U of L, Michigan, NC State. We had one change, and it was two teams swapping. Cal goes from 8th to 7th. U of L goes from 7th to 8th. This is Cal gaining 6 points. U of L losing, 4 points. So Cal now has 208.5. U of L has 205. That is the only change that we see in the top 10. But where we do see a lot of change is from the 10 to 20 range. This is where we get a lot more tightness and a lot more competitiveness between these places, and where those B final jumps from getting 2 points to getting 8 points means a lot. And this is where we saw the biggest changes. This is also where you have more B finalists. A lot of these schools have more swimmers in the B final than in the A final, and this is where a lot of their points are coming from. So this 14 through 19 range is where we saw the biggest changes. 14 through 19 at this meet last year was OSU, Bama, Georgia, UNC, Purdue, ASU. Under the new rules, it becomes Bama, OSU, Purdue, Georgia, ASU, and UNC. That's Bama jumping up a spot. That's OSU going down a spot. Purdue going up 2 spots. Georgia going down a spot. ASU going up a spot. And UNC dropping 2 spots. So if I were one of these programs in the mid-teens, I would expect some changes in the strategies. I would expect, if you weren't already putting a lot of emphasis on those morning swims, that would now be the Super Bowl. If I were a team in the 20 to 10 range, these morning swims are the most important thing for you now. The A finals are the cherry on top. Like if you're a UVA, a Stanford, a Texas, those A finals are really important because you just have to outscore your opponent who's also going to be in the A final. If you're in the 10 through 20 range, I would hype up these mornings like crazy. I know they already are hyped up. I know that any good program already emphasizes winning the morning. But if it wasn't already important to you to be the best team in the morning, these new changes make that even more important now. And it'll be interesting to see, even in the long term, like what programs do to try and counter this and how to affect this. Maybe they do more stand-up sets or more sprint sets in the morning to teach these guys and condition them to be able to get up early and put in top speed effort. But you also get a couple pockets in the 26 through 30 range. Minnesota jumps up 2 spots from 28 to 26. Texas A&M drops 2 spots, 26 to 28. Obviously, like in the bottom 30s, you get some changes because some of them, these are their only swimmers that they have. So if they had a better B final, that gained them 4 points or so, and that's part of their like 10 points total, and they lose that, that's obviously going to change a lot. But this 10 to 20 range, I think, is where we're going to see the biggest change and the biggest change in philosophy for these programs. Maybe not in terms of now making the morning important, because the morning is always important, but maybe even changing their coaching philosophies throughout the season to try and prepare these guys and these girls for bigger morning swims. The other big change is the order of events now. We've seen a lot of order of event changes. SEC's changed their order of events. A lot of conferences changed them. And now we're getting it in the NCAA. This is a big change in the NCAA's priorities, because the old format used to really focus on swimmers first and putting together a lineup that really benefits the swimmer in the way that the meet is paced and the way that the events are spaced out. This seems like it's way more cut for TV. And once again, I think that that's a great idea. I think that in the state of college athletics right now, swimming is at a real big threat of being left out and of being just eliminated, of not existing in the next 5 years. So I think that doing anything you can to make this game more approachable for the fan is a good idea. One example is they moved the mile off of day 4 and put it into day 1 on the very beginning. You're doing your top 8 seeds, the first night session. I like this. I think the 1650 is kind of a difficult thing for swimming to kind of handle. Same thing with the 1,000 and dual meets. It just, regardless of what you think of distance swimming, I love distance swimming, but it's just a hard thing to market, and it's a hard thing to get viewers to watch because it's so long. And because a lot of people aren't as tuned in on the times and what it really means to put up a 14:30, a 14:29 in the mile. It just looks like people just swimming at half speed just the whole race. And obviously that's not what it is, but that's just the way it looks. So I think getting this out of the way in terms of TV time and viewership is probably the best thing to do. And then you follow it up with the 2 medley and the 800 freestyle relay, just like we had in day 1 in the past. So I think that really, people are going to want to watch those relays anyways, so I think that works out well. And then you look at day 2 through 4. I'm not going to go through every event, but what it looks like is, if you've ever been to a concert, what you'll notice is a lot of these artists will put hits at the very beginning of a concert, and then they'll put a little bit more of their deep cuts in the middle, and then they'll finish out with more of their hits, and they'll usually save their best songs for the very end, maybe at the end of the encore even. That looks to be what we're doing with this order of events as well, which makes sense. You want to get people to tune in early, and then you want them to have a reason to stay through the rest of the session. So day 2, we start with the 100 butterfly. That's an exciting one. And then we end with the 100 breaststroke and the 200 freestyle relay. So they're kind of packing the hundreds and the shorter events and the relays at the beginning and at the end, and they're kind of stuffing the 400s and the 200s and the 500s in the middle. Day 3, they start with the 100 backstroke and then end with the 50 freestyle and the 400 medley relay. Day 4, they start with the 200 individual medley and the 100 freestyle, and then they end with the 400 freestyle relay. I think that this is a great idea. I'm excited to see how the ratings change and how this affects something like that. I think that it's interesting. They also decided to change the diving. They would split every diving event into rounds 1 through 3 and rounds 4 through 6, with the later rounds obviously happening towards the end of the days. I'm interested to see how that affects it. Maybe it'll make it less of a block and less of just such a long stretch of diving. But I think that this is a good change. I don't think it's the change, but I think that we're making steps in the right direction. And I'm excited to see how the entertainment value changes.